lot of people know about Jackie Robinson, but not that many people know about Chuck Harmon. I had the honor and the privilege to speak with his son for us to get his side of the story and to tell us the things that his father was able to do and to be a trailblazer in all types of sports. Check this out, man. We already rolling.
My name is Chuck Harmon Jr., and I'm on Silver Rise rolling with my boy Sterling. Had a great time. My neighbor, even though he's a New England Patriots fan, Cowboys for life.
Oh my God.
Already rolling.
Yeah.
We already rolling.
We already rolling.
This is a great interview. This is legendary.
Yeah, and it's that dope, but we just rolling, nigga. Yeah, and it's that dope, but we just rolling. And it's that dope, but we just rolling, nigga. Yeah, and it's that dope, but we just rolling. Yeah, it's that dope, but we just rolling, nigga. Yeah, it's the dope, but we just rolling. Yeah, it's the dope, but we just rolling, nigga. Yeah, it's the dope, but we just.
Back up, buddy. My son wanted to get in the picture so much, man. I don't mind. That's cool. It's history, man. This is the first black player to ever play for the Reds. This is perfect. Like this is the first time I think I've had an interview with someone's eating, but I don't mind because it's Mr. C. And this is how I am. You know, I already know what it is. We're already rolling. Got another episode. This is really dope. Back again for another Silver Rise. I got a real special guest. Today's guest is Mr. Chuck Harmon Jr. You know what I'm saying? And don't act like the camera on you, man. You ain't gotta do that. I'm trying to tell you, Mr. Chuck, we neighbors first, man. So you do that,
true.
Man.
That's
so,
true.
You know what I'm saying? We gotta introduce each other off camera, so they ain't about to be shaking and saying, my man, eating this food. I told him I appreciate the time. You know what I mean? This is
it's a good time to catch up.
Yeah.
I got one question for you.
Yes, sir.
Are you still a Patriots fan? 'Cause I know when Tom left, I thought about you, man. I was like, oh, okay. I said Sterling probably repping the Tampa jersey now.
Nah, Mr. Chuck, I can't do that. Nah. I'm still rocking my boys. And I'm gonna be 100 with you, man. We going down bad slowly, man. Ever since he's left, it's ugly. It's ugly.
Yeah, it has been. It has been. But, I mean, you guys got a talented defense this year. It depends on your quarterback.
I mean,
and if you get D-Hop, that's going to be a good move.
That's what I'm waiting on. That's what I mean. Bill he gotta open up the purse, man. He gotta open up the wallet for this man. He can't be acting all, you know what I'm saying? Mike Brown, like, he can't be acting cheap now.
Mm-hmm.
He gotta open up that pocket, but Mac Jones got to play good. Like you said, he's just being for real. He ain't no Tom Brady. And them boys got to want to play for Mac Jones, too, because he can't just throw the ball to people and they not want to catch the ball now. Right. So that's the reason why Brady left, Mr. C. Like, he wasn't getting no help. Like, he old, and as soon as he leave, he get a ring. Yep. So now you done got me started, Mr. Chuck, man. Bad memories, man. Because, anyways. Nah, man. But like I said, this interview is really dope. I got a living legend sitting in front of me right now. People don't know. That's what I'm saying, Mr. Chuck. They don't know. Some people know, but some people like my age, they don't know your story. They don't know your father's story, man. Right. So like, this is something that I was honored, just being free. I was honored when you even told me your history, man. This was like years ago when we still lived over there. And I was like, dang, for real, Mr. Chuck. We used to work over there, Planet Fitness. Right. Like, first and foremost, your history of you being a kid, you being the son of the first ever black Reds. Tell me about that lifestyle growing up. You yourself having that on your shoulders. Like, was your father like? Did he always want you to play baseball? Like, what was your upbringing like? What was Mr. Chuck's Jr. story like?
Well, basically, like I said, my father being the first African American baseball player for the Reds. It was a great honor, but as a kid, we just saw it as he was just my dad. So I never even thought about it that way until other kids would say, hey man, I heard your dad used to play for the Reds and play for the Cardinals and play for the Phillies. And I said, yeah. You know, but to me, it was always just my dad. Yeah. But he never really pushed me into any sport. You know, I gravitated to basketball because when we were living in Indianapolis, that's all we did was play basketball. So I really never played baseball until we moved over here in Cincinnati when I was in the 7th grade. I played baseball, but other than that, I was always basketball. And in fact, basketball was my dad's main sport.
I saw that.
You know, in high school, he won back-to-back state champions in 41 and 42. for Washington High School in Washington, Indiana. And he was All-American at basketball at Toledo.
Yes, sir.
And he also played baseball in high school and baseball in college. And a lot of people don't know my father had an opportunity to play for the Boston Celtics.
I was about to say,
but he got cut. So he just concentrated on baseball, and he was signed by the St. Louis Browns, who eventually became the Baltimore Orioles. But it was the St. Louis Browns, and then his contract was bought by the Cincinnati Reds, and that's how he became the Cincinnati Reds. So he was called up to the majors in April 17th of 1954. So next year it'll be 70 years of him being called up as the first black Reds player.
Man, Mr. Chuck, if this is crazy. If I'm not researching, was mistaken, was that like 6 days before his 30th birthday?
Yep.
Dang.
Yep.
All right. So you hit like two topics that I already wanted to talk about in that amazing rant right there.
Right.
The Celtics, they cut him. He was one of like the last people to get cut from the Celtics. And just being for real, some people could have looked at that and be like, man, damn, my opportunity's gone. He said, nah, next thing up, baseball. And just being for real, like going back didn't he play in the Negro Leagues for a short period of time?
Yeah, for the Indianapolis Clowns.
I ain't like the name of that, Mr. C. I looked that up. I ain't like that name, but that's respect, dog, for real, because most people hear about Jackie Robinson and just all this stuff like that about him, and it's like, okay, we don't even know about Chuck Harmon, you know what I mean? And just being for real, the Reds is the very first, if not the oldest MLB team ever. So
that's correct. They were the first professional baseball team.
That's wild. Mm-hmm. And I'm looking at the time difference from him getting on the Reds in 1954.
1954.
That's almost right. What's the time? 1869 or 1870? I think the Reds came out.
Almost 100 years later.
For the first black person to ever play on the Reds.
Right.
And it was your dad. Mm-hmm. Okay, you just saying that was like just everyday life for you, but can you tell me what were like some moments, or how old were you when he actually started playing for the Reds?
Well, I wasn't born until 58.
Wow, okay.
So he was, at that time, he was with the Phillies.
Okay.
He was with the Phillies, and then he was out of baseball as far as Major League Baseball. He was playing for some pro leagues. He was playing for a pro league team out in California and everything like that. But my older sister got to experience all that. My older sister Charlene, because it was 9 years difference.
Wow.
And everything. So my younger sister Cheryl and I, we didn't get to experience all the that particular baseball. As far as being able to go into the parks and things of that nature and watching him play, But I do remember, going to some of the minor league games, or when he was playing winter baseball in Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic as a baby or a 2-year-old. I have still vivid memories of that and everything like that. So, but it was a great honor. But like I said, I never looked at him until as you start getting older, you start appreciating it, because I remember, meeting people like Willie Mays coming over to my parents' house and stuff like that.
Wow.
Yeah, and I remember, Frank Robinson, who was a good friend of the family, and just Pete Rose, Johnny Bench, all the baseball legends, Ken Griffey Sr.
Wow.
And I have a good friendship with one of my buddies is Ken Griffey Jr. So we've been friends for a very long time. But Dave Parker, Eric Davis, all these Cincinnati legends that people I've met and been around and had the pleasure. Al Oliver that played with the Pirates, along with Dave Parker. Just having the pleasure of meeting those guys and being around those guys because of my father and his legacy. So now as you get older, you start to appreciate that. When you see these guys in the Hall of Fame, you see them on TV, like, man, these guys are like legends.
Yeah.
And I had opportunity as a kid to meet a lot of those guys, but like I said, I just saw them as other baseball players, regular people.
Man, you were like, I don't know if you ever seen the show Young Rock. It's about Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, and his upbringing. Mm-hmm. And you were like The Rock as a kid, because The Rock grew up with Andre the Giant and Ric Flair in his house. You're naming freaking Pete Rose and like Robinson, like. These are people that are in the Hall of Fame downtown right now.
Right, exactly.
So like, just being a kid growing up, of a Reds player, Did that put any pressure on you? Were you ever, like, did you ever feel like, okay, I have some big shoes to fulfill, like, or anything like that?
To a certain degree, one of the main questions I'd always have people ask me, are you going to grow up and play professional baseball like your dad? And I was like, I never really thought about it because, like I said, I love basketball. And basketball was my sport. And I always tell people that was my dad's. My dad was a great basketball player in high school and college.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, I used to hear that all the time. You know, you're going to grow up and play baseball. And like I said, I played 1 year, made the all-star team, you know, played third base. But, you know, getting hit by a pitch a few times, getting you know, a line drive, well, not a line drive, but a routine grounder that popped up and hit me. I had a black eye. You know, I got hit in the shoulder. I was like, you know what?
That's enough to get hit with this ball, huh?
Right, but but the crazy thing about it, playing basketball in high school and college, broken bone, got my nose broke my sophomore year in high school in practice, and then my sophomore year in college in practice. I was going in for a layup, and the guy tried to block my shot, spun me around, and I broke my wrist. So I've had more injuries playing basketball
than baseball.
Than baseball, yeah. But I love basketball.
I'm over here talking to Mr. Chuck Harmon. You know what I'm saying? We already rolling. This is for the podcast listeners. Like, comment, and subscribe. This is probably one of the most special interviews that I think I'm ever going to be a part of because this guy I actually know personally. One of my first neighbors when we got our first apartment. Just giving a background story of how I even know this man. So, like, this man is one of the coolest, most genuine men that I ever met since I've been an adult. We used to work out together. We used to, you know what I'm saying, talk all sports, all that stuff. He was literally my next door neighbor in our apartment. So this is a really cool dude, and he's like family. So yeah, y'all go on and tap into this really dope interview. Now I just had to do it for the audio, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, Mr. Chuck, man, when I look at everything that's like coming back into like the Reds, we're gonna get back to the Reds, but like I want to talk more about you and your dad and just being free more so on you. And because one thing that I actually did admire about you was you being a father, and you actually like had that pride of like anytime I used to see you and your son hanging out, y'all was always doing something. And now, like, me being a father, I can really appreciate that and see, like, you actually took time out to care about your kid. This is almost 10 years ago. So, like, can you give me some fatherhood advice? Because I'm new in the game. Like, your son done graduated, so, like, you retired again. So it's like, now you can give me some pointers or anything on just to keep my sanity, man, because they 3-1. They ripping me, running me, man.
Well, I put it this way, no matter how old you get, you're always going to be a father. No matter, you know. So my son, he's 18, but yeah, I get that call. I get that call when he needs something, especially money or something like that. But as far as fatherhood, I mean, I had a great teacher, my father, because I remember all the things that he did for us and my family. So, you know, just watching him, you know, and looking at that blueprint, just being a father. And just being there for your children.
Yes, sir.
I mean, that's the most important thing, man. Because you know, sometimes when you're working hard, you come home and you're like, oh, I'm tired, but your kids are like, hey, I haven't seen you all day. They're like, hey, let's do this, let's do that. So you gotta regroup and spend that time with them, man. Because the next thing you know, they're going to be asking you for the car keys.
Man.
They're going to ask you for the car keys and gas money.
And it
goes that quick, man.
Oh, man.
It goes that quick.
Mr. Chuck, this is so wild, man. What would you think since you know what I'm saying, we just had, you told me your son just graduated, so since then, like, do you think there's one thing that you think you know for sure he's taken from you that you took from your father?
Yes, I think one thing, that determination to whatever you do to try to be the best at it. And like I told you earlier, he took up acting last year as a junior, and he was the newcomer of the year, and he was also the best junior. And I said he went from having a small role, first 1 or 2 plays, to being one of the lead actors in the final play of the year, and then his senior year just took off. Every play that he had, he was either the lead actor, or maybe the second lead actor in every year. So just that determination to put the work in, put that dedication in, to work hard, and but my father, like I said, he was a hard worker. You know, once he was done with baseball, he was still got up every day, went to work.
Man, I saw that.
Yeah.
After retirement, he had a career like no other still.
Yeah. Still continued to work for the Hamilton County Courts of Appeals for a long time. The only reason he retired at age 81 or 82 is because most of the guys that he was working with had retired. But,
wow.
You know, but he's still, even once he was retired, he would still get up 6, 7 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
And he had a routine, and I'm the same way now. You know, even on my off days, I'm still up early. I hit the gym.
Yeah.
You know, I go play to the driving range. So I got to stay active.
That's
man.
right, man.
Keeps you young.
Yes, sir. Now, Mr. Chuck, real quick, because you did touch on the spot. I didn't know that Pops worked in the city of Hamilton, but he also, in my research, tell me if I'm wrong or not, was he a scout for the Indians, the Braves, and the Pacers?
Yep.
Damn. I mean, look, for real though, like, that was, like you just said earlier, if it was one thing, it was next. After he got cut from basketball, it was like, on to the next one. So, like you said, that determination was in him since he's been a kid. It had to have been.
Right. Yeah, like I said, he scouted for the Atlanta Braves. One of his, even though he didn't get credit for it, but Dave Justice was one of the guys that he had initiated trying to get signed for the Braves. He wound up being signed by Hep Cronin. Actually, Hep Cronin took my dad's scouting territory when for the Braves. And you know, of course, his son is
yes, sir.
UC
yes,
coach
sir.
and UCLA coach, everything like that. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Damn, Mr. Chuck.
Yeah, it's a big small world. But yeah, my father, and he scouted for the Indians, and he also scouted for the Indiana Pacers. So I used to go to him to some of the UC games, Xavier games, and watch some of the local, watch some of the different colleges that would come in to play. And yeah, he scouted for the Pacers for about 3 or 4 years. So.
Could you quickly give me one of the most fondest stories, memories that you have with your father? It could be from childhood, it could be from when y'all were adults. What is like one of the most memorable moments that you had with your dad that you could think of?
Well, I always tell people just playing catch in the backyard with my father, just throwing the ball back and forth. And the coolest thing I always tell people, and I used to try to do this with my son Chad, I would throw the ball to my dad, and he would lean all the way over, and he would catch the ball behind his back.
Wow.
And I thought that was just so cool, and like that. So I used to try that with my son. I wasn't that good at it, but yeah, the fact that he could just throw the ball and I throw it to him, and he would lean all the way over and have his glove and catch the ball behind his back. I thought that was just so cool.
Badass. I'm gonna be free. That's badass, Mr. C. Not free, because one thing I'm just gonna be 100 with you, Mr. Chuck. I could run a mile in probably 5 minutes. Right. I could catch a football. I may be able to lay up the ball in basketball, but I ain't never touched a baseball bat in my life and thought I was gonna actually hit the ball. I was not a baseball player. Oh no, man. Just like you said, getting hit, taking a 95-mile ball to the face, you gotta be a different type of crazy, and I ain't been drinking that kind of crazy yet.
Yep. Hardest thing in the world to do, man, is hit a baseball. That's why you can bat 300.
Yes.
Where you're failing 7 out of 10 times, and you can make millions of dollars
off of 3 hits. Look at that.
3 hits. Yep.
Give me your prediction, because we see the Reds right now, they super hot, and this is a topic that we've been mainly talking about with that team that's going crazy, probably like team that's taking over America right now. You think they could do it this year, Mr. Chuck?
They have a very good young team. They're hungry. It's all going to be depending on their pitching. So hopefully over the next few weeks, in baseball, this time of year, you're either a seller or a buyer.
Okay.
So the Reds, if they want to be competitive, they're going to have to spend some money to get, maybe add a veteran here or there. But they're definitely, it's going to come down to pitching. But those guys are hungry. I've been to several games this year. Yeah. And they are very fun to watch. Yeah. They never give up. They never think they're out of it.
Nah, man. Call them the Cardiac Reds right now. Yeah, what was it, against the Padres? Was it Padres? When they was down, then they came back up, and then they took the lead, and then they came back up. They went to like the 11th inning with it, man. Hey, I was entertained by it. And I like how baseball has turned around for the younger viewers, Mr. Chuck, because just being for real, that was a good 10 years. I probably didn't turn on the game, man. And it's like off the fact that it was so long of a game. It's so it took a long time, and now like you see like they kind of like did like the acceleration clock or the pitch clock.
Pitch clock.
And how do you feel about that? How do you feel about the changes of baseball personally?
At first, I was like, "Why are you tinkering with something that's always worked?"
Okay.
And growing up in baseball, the time factor never bothered me because I would just go in there to watch the game. I mean, I know a lot of people like to see the home runs, which is great, but I've been more excited watching, 2-1, 3-2 baseball game where you guys, you're getting a few hits here and there, and the pitchers are going at it back and forth. And I love pitching duels, but I think the first game I went to this year, and I was like, I looked at my watch and I looked at the scoreboard, and I'm like, man, we're already in the 6th inning, and we were only there for maybe an hour and 45 minutes because it was moving along that quick.
Yeah.
But I think to your casual fan that goes to baseball games but can easily get bored, that with the pitch count and with the clock, and the fact now you can't shift. I think it definitely has been a difference in the game, and people are more entertained. In fact, now that the Reds are winning and being successful, that also is helping the city of Cincinnati because you got the Reds playing well, you got the soccer team playing well, and the Bengals have been very successful the past few years. So it's good for this Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky area.
And you are a resident. You born and raised out of here, or you from?
No, I was actually born in upstate New York.
Really?
Yeah, that's where my late mother's from, and my father's from Washington, Indiana.
Yes, sir.
And they met when he was on leave during World War II because he was in college. Yeah, he was in the Navy. Okay. He was in college, and his college was interrupted. He was going to the University of Toledo, but it was interrupted because of the war. And one of his guys that he was in the in the Navy with was from Gloversville, New York, and my father went home with him, and that's how he met my mother, and and 2 months later they were married.
Wow.
So we talked, so it just happens. But yeah, I was born in New York. Both my sisters were born in New York. We lived in California for a short time and then my father got injured playing baseball, and then we moved back to Indianapolis, and I lived in Indianapolis from 1961 up until 70, and then we moved over here. So my father took a job over here, but Cincinnati's been my home.
You think so?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's been my home.
I saw some pictures and I saw some clips that you had with your dad when I think he was inducted for the tribute that the Reds did for him, and I think you were there to hand him the plaque. Yeah. Can you talk about that, or?
Yeah, my dad. He's received several awards from the Reds, but the most recent one was the Paul Crossley Award. That's an award that they give to usually. In fact, I think he was one of the first former players, but usually they give it to someone that's part of the Reds organization that has contributed in some way or another. And my father was given that, first of all, being the first black Cincinnati Red player, and some of the other contributions that he's done or helped out with the Reds organization.
Yes, sir.
And it's one of the highest honors, something like that. And then, like I said, he has a plaque at the stadium, yes, and I'd like to see him move it to a different area, or if not, put either a banner or something along, because a lot of people walk past it, and where it's located, they really, unless you actually look at it, you really don't know what it's there for. So
where is that? Because I'm actually curious.
When you go into the ballpark, in the main gates, if you go to your left, there's a kettle popcorn vendor right there.
Yes, sir. And
if you walk around past there, it's on a wall. If you continue to go straight, that takes you to the elevator, which takes you up to the upper deck. But he's right on that wall. So next year, in fact, I'm gonna talk to Rick Walls, who good friend of the family. He runs the Reds Hall of Fame. See if they can, because next year it will be 70 years of my dad being called up as the first black Cincinnati Red player. Plus, my dad will be 100 years old.
Wow.
Yeah. So I think if they could put some type of banner up there saying 70 years, being first African American Reds, and then the fact that he's turning 100, I think that would, it would give it, more luster, because of like I said, where it's located right now. People don't get to see it now. He does have a statue out there.
I was about to ask you, it's in the Bond Hill.
Yeah, right there, Seymour area.
Yes, sir.
And everything like that, and it's really nice right there at the Reds Youth Academy.
Yes, sir.
And everything, and that statue is unbelievable. I mean, that's
I was
such a
about
great.
to ask you, I had a whole segment for that, because that really, I think, resonates with how much this man really meant to the city, not just the team of the Reds, and just being for real. Him, I'm gonna be 100 with you, Mrs. E. It's a cool cliche thing saying me the first black thing,
right?
The first black thing, but it's also cringeworthy too, because like what we said when we got off camera, it took 100 years for that to happen.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's the topic that I did want to discuss too: racism in America and racism personally that you've probably seen or your father seen or probably shared with you. Were there any moments? We'll get back to the statue, but were there anything that you could possibly tell me, because I know it had to have been something it had to have been jacked up playing in that time.
Right. There were one of the stories my father told me, and it was kind of a backhanded compliment. But my dad was playing baseball out in, I believe it was Texas.
Okay.
And he was in the minor leagues, and the other guy that was on the team was Cuban by the name of Nino Escalera.
Okay.
Now Nino Escalera was, even though he was Cuban, he was dark complected, and to your average person, unless you hear him speak,
they both considered them the first two players. I saw that too.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got
Nino
you.
was the first Latin American, and then my father was a black. But anyway, my father tells me a story where there was a white couple that was sitting there in the front row. Near the Reds farm system. I believe that was a AAA team. And they kept yelling the N-words. You ends, why we don't want you ends, why you ends out here playing and everything like that. But my dad, the funny thing about it, by the third game, him and Nino Escalera had been doing so much damage by getting base hits. My dad said, I think the last game they played there, that couple started yelling to their manager, and I don't know what the manager's name was, but we just say his name was Joe. Yeah. He said, Joe, we need to get some of these ends on our team, because these two boys are wearing us out.
Yeah, exactly. And look where we at now.
Exactly. I always laugh about that. He said, after about the third game, they were like, we need some of these ends on our team now. Yeah. Because these two guys are killing us.
See what's so funny about that, man, Mr. Chuck? They'll want to give us the compliments once they see how good you really are, but they all think we all the same until they feel like they see our value, see who we actually are. Exactly. And that's so crazy, man. You got to learn how to shut them up. I feel like the game is, you show them your game and then they're going to get the respect. I like that, man. Yeah. I love this conversation. We're going to really wrap it up. I ain't going to keep you much longer. I got a couple more points I want to talk to you about, and I'm going to get you out of here, man, because I do appreciate your time, man.
That's fine, man.
Indiana Baseball Hall of Fame. Just name some credentials that he had, that your dad, after this career, scout for multiple teams in multiple leagues, and just being for real, all-around man's man. Yeah. Is there anything? I mean, we talk so much about your dad. I know I really want to give him his flowers.
Right.
Is there anything that you want the world, that just being for the younger viewers, people that be 25 to 30 that don't maybe know anything about this, something that you would want them to be like, hey, this is something I always want people to remember my father for, or anything like that?
Well, one thing that's unique about my father, he's one of the few guys, and I don't know if it's changed, but I know at one point he was the only player in the state of Indiana to be in the Basketball Hall of Fame and in the Baseball Hall of Fame.
Wow.
That's how talented or great my father was.
Wow.
Yeah.
Damn.
So I don't know if it's changed yet, but I know at one point, I know up until the mid-90s, maybe even to this day, I don't know if there's a guy that's in the Baseball and Basketball Hall of Fame in the state of Indiana. And basketball is king in Indiana.
Yes, sir.
Making Hall of Fame. I have a cousin, my cousin Billy. he was instrumental in helping get that book written about my dad, the first black Cincinnati Red.
Yes,
You
sir.
know, him and my cousin Tommy and Marty Perret, who wrote the book and everything like that. And the cool thing about it, I didn't realize too, when I looked at the history, I found out, and it's kind of ironic because during the 90s, one of my favorite movies was the movie Glory. And I watched that movie, and I went there with my buddy Frank, who's like a brother to me. And there was one scene when Denzel had escaped to try to get some shoes,
Yes, sir.
and everything like that. And he was, and they had to give him a whipping, the whip. And I told Frank, I said, man, Denzel's going to get an Oscar. When that tear came down, I said, and he wound up getting best supporting actor. But anyway, to make it long story, I found out that my great grandfather on my father's side, his last name is Allen. I wish I could remember his first name. Anyway, he lived in Indiana. He left his wife and his children to join the 54. So he was part of that regiment that was the first African American cavalry or troops that were killed there in South Carolina. Wow! And I thought that was so cool. And because I was like, that's one of my favorite movies, and I think about it every time I watch her when it comes on. I think about my great grandfather who sacrificed. And like I said, who was married, had children, but you know he thought it was, and who was free. Wow. You know, that's the thing. And you think about it, he was free.
Yes.
And he decided to enlist to fight for this country.
Mr. C, you are a walking encyclopedia. Man, I'm serious. I'm not even hyping this. I could literally listen to you talk for hours about just anything that I could pick your brain, man, because you've seen this stuff. You actually lived through this, and just being for real, you're the source. Like for real, you seen it first.
Henry Allen. That was my grandfather. I'm sorry.
Thank
Henry.
you.
I knew it would come.
Thank you. Hey, give him credit now. Hey, this is so dope. I'm gonna lighten the mood up for a minute. One thing to like to talk about is TV and movies and stuff like that. I love to have fun with people I talk to. Let's see, what's your favorite show that you're watching right now?
My favorite show that I'm watching right now, I got hooked on Yellowstone.
Word?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think about it, I said, if my father was alive, he would probably love Yellowstone. Because my father he loved Dallas. During the 70s, man. He loved JR. And I'll tell you a funny story about my dad. Now, I'm the only son.
Okay.
And I have an older sister and younger sister.
Okay.
Now, on Friday nights, my dad was always watching Dallas. I called my dad one day. I forgot. I don't even know why I was calling him. And I'm like, hey, Dad. And he goes, who is this? I'm like, well, how many sons do you have? He's like, you know I'm watching my show, Dallas, what do you want? I said, I couldn't remember. I laughed so hard. I said, Dad, I'll just see you tomorrow.
Hey, Dallas Jr. Hey, he was a bad boy.
Man, that was his show, man. He loved JR. He loved the Hewings, man. But I still tell people that story. I was like, Dad, hey, Dad. He's like, who is this? Like, how many sons do you have?
Mr. C, man, we wrapping this up, man.
Yes, sir.
Can you answer three things you can't go without in a daily basis? 3 things you can't go without every day. What's 3 things that make you every day? Like you can't have this without, you know what I'm saying? You wouldn't be Mr. Chuck without this every day. Like.
Well, the thing that keeps me motivated, man, is keeping myself in shape mentally, physically, and spiritually, especially the fact that I have a son who's 18, I'm 65, so you can do the math. You know, I started late, but
you're a living legend, Mr. C.
But I want to make sure I'm around for him at least another 20, 30 years. So
yes, sir.
I try to eat right, take my vitamins, try to get plenty of sleep, try not to let anything stress me out because you know, stress, especially. You know, for us black people, you know, stress, you know, and hypertension, and I try to watch what I eat. I gave up soda, even though I did have one today. I had a Dr. Pepper. It's the first time I had one in probably 4 months, but it was so good. But I'm good. I'm good for a while, so I figured that's part of my cheat day.
Yes, sir.
Other things I can't go without. Well, I love sweet tea. You know, people are like, man, you need to leave that sweet tea alone. I said, no. I said, I gave up the sodas, but I'm not giving up the sweet teas. So so sweet tea, that's my go-to. When I have my final meal, it's gonna be sweet tea and some barbecue ribs.
Okay, then I ain't mad at you.
You know.
Who's your favorite musical artist of all time?
Of all time, see, I have an eclectic taste in music. Because 1 minute I'm listening to Biggie, Notorious B.I.G.
Yes, sir.
and Ice Cube.
Okay.
Then I'm listening to Frank Sinatra because my mother introduced me to like Frank and Billy Eckstine and Sammy Davis.
Yes, sir.
People like that. I love country. I'm big right now on Jason Aldean and Luke Combs.
Okay.
And I love jazz, especially contemporary jazz. Bob James, Earl Clue, Paul Hardcastle. So like I said, I have an eclectic taste in music.
Respect.
But my favorite musician or music, probably Carlos Santana.
Really?
Santana. I love Santana. I love the guitar.
Black Magic Woman?
Black Magic Woman. Yeah. Black Magic Woman.
Yes, sir.
But that Santana Brax's album is probably one of the greatest albums ever made. And he had so many hits on there. And Santana, he had that Latin Afro-American influence. Because even though he, and the ironic thing about it, he's actually married to a black woman that lives in Yellow Spring, that was from Yellow Springs, Ohio.
Word.
She plays percussions in his band.
Word.
Yeah. But yeah, Santana probably of all time, it had to be Carlos Santana.
Okay.
I've seen him a few times, and always puts on a great show, man.
Damn, you see Santana in concert, Mr. C? Damn. Hey, man. All right. That's a flex.
I've seen him in concert.
This is my last question, and I'm gonna have you. Just need you to do one thing, then we got it here, Mr. Chuck. What do you want to be remembered for when it's all said and done? I know it's a dark question, but it's just always the question I always ask somebody. It's like we all gotta go, but it's like when we see that obituary, it's that date when we're born, that date that we died, but it's that thing in the middle, it's the dash. What do you want your dash to represent for you? Because it's like everything you do in your life is represented in that dash. So what do you want that dash to represent for Mr. Chuck?
That I was a good son and a great father to my son.
Yes, sir.
To follow my dad's blueprint and try to make sure my son has everything in the world. And so he is spoiled, but yeah, just to be a great dad.
I feel like that's deserving. So man, I think a lot of people, like, just being for me, my generation of kids, we wouldn't have the opportunity, like, just being free to have fathers. Right. So I love the fact that you spoiled your son, and I like that you take credit to that, because a lot of people are like, oh, my kids, they ain't spoiled. Nah, man, spoil your kids, because if they deserve it, man, they deserve it. Cool, man. Thank you, Mr. Chuck. I really appreciate this, man. Thank you, brother.
Always, man.
I really do appreciate this,
Always,
man.
My name is Chuck Harmon Jr., and I'm on Silver Rise, rolling with my boy Sterling. Had a great time. My neighbor, even though he's a New England Patriots fan, Cowboys for life.
Oh my God.